So the purpose of the SAM study is to create, test, and advance resources to help municipal stormwater programs, specifically to help them with their including and identifying mobile businesses for their source control programs. So before we dive into it, I just want to address the questions of why study mobile businesses. We have a couple of simple answers. One is that mobile businesses have some unique needs when it comes to the generation and disposal of waste. Also, mobile businesses are mentioned in the permit for the guidance for developing site inventories, but more guidance is needed. So that's the main effort behind the SAM study. And also, I just want to address what we're referring to when we talk about mobile businesses, specifically in the context of stormwater management. One of the key things about mobile businesses is that they travel to sites to provide services at those sites. Another aspect is that, like any commercial enterprise, mobile businesses are of potential interest to stormwater management when it comes to the potential for illicit discharges. And so this could happen, as I mentioned, through the generation of waste, but also through the transfer, transportation, and discharge and treatment of waste. And because those waste products are being moved around with the mobile business, then that presents some unique challenges. So some examples include some common things that you might think of, like mobile pet groomers, mobile carpet cleaners, but the list can get pretty long if you start to think about it. Some businesses by nature are mobile, for example, construction contractors, many landscapers are, et cetera. So the list can go on, and we'll talk about some specific mobile businesses as we go. For an overview of the presentation, we're going to follow the tasks for the SAM study. There's 7 total. As you can see right now, we're currently on task 6, which is a pilot program for mobile businesses in stormwater in King County. And we've completed tasks 2 through 5, and we'll go through those briefly. Task 2 briefly is a survey of municipal programs. Task 3 is a process we developed to figure out a way to identify and list mobile businesses. Task 4 is an analysis we did of IDDE data related to mobile businesses. Task 5 is a best practices guidance document that we prepared, and then task 6 is the mobile business pilot study. So let's dive into task 2. And what I've got here, we can't cover all the detail from the SAM study that we've accomplished so far. Yeah, thank you, Eric. Trying to get this fixed. So just giving you some examples of what we've accomplished and learned from these various tasks, and you'll see that there's some links to click if you get the presentation afterward to get some more information. So first, task 2 was the survey. And the goals of the survey was to ask municipal permittees themselves things like what data sources they use to develop their site inventories, how mobile businesses are identified. In total, there were 9 questions. And as you can see from the pie chart on the right, we had a pretty good response. That was 65 permittees out of 95 that were requested to respond to the survey. And there was pretty good representation between both phase 1s and phase 2s, as well as some secondary permittees. All right, so just to give you an example of one of the responses to the questions, this was question 8. This is asking permittees what they perceive to be barriers to waste handling, specifically for mobile businesses. And we presented a series of answer options. And as you can see, there are many potential barriers that permittees picked, most of all was proper disposal methods, but significant concern about other things too, from transportation to labeling to awareness of alternative products. And the bar on the lowest part of the graph shows multiple answers that many permittees chose. So that's a quick tour through the survey, and we'll move on to task 3, which was the mobile business listing procedure. And what we did for this task, the purpose was to develop a process to identify mobile businesses of interest to stormwater source control. And I'm going to keep saying that, of interest to stormwater, because the world of mobile businesses can be very wide. And that was part of our effort too, is to identify which businesses we think have some concerns or may have concerns regarding stormwater. Ultimately, this was intended to help permittees with their site inventory development and update. The procedure we used was to work with business license data in the context of their NAICS codes, their industrial classification codes. And we chose to do this, I should say there's lots of different ways that permittees can create their site inventories. The permit allows for that leeway. We chose to follow the guidance that the permit provides, which was based on permit license data. and looking at the industrial classification codes and the perceived risk from those. So we worked directly with Department of Revenue, established a contact there in their business license service or BLS service. And we focused on King County. In total, there are 25 BLS cities in King County that participate with, I'm sure they pay into Department of Revenue, who provides management and administration of the business license data. The other cities in King County, they manage their business license data either by themselves or through a third party, most commonly File Local. So, but we focused on these cities that participate in DOR's BLS program, and we tried to identify a fingerprint of what mobile businesses are based on a keyword search using Python coding, a natural language algorithm. And what we did was we searched the business's own description of its own services. Some of you may be aware, business license data contains a lot of potential information. One of those fields is product description, and product description is the business's own words about what service they provide. So we searched those for some keywords, and we focused on the non-resident endorsement type. And that means that a business has its home base outside of the city where it's getting its business license. In other words, there's no brick and mortar location. So not necessarily all of the businesses from outside a city who have a business license in that city are mobile businesses, but it's a good subset for us to work with. And the keyword search, we did a weighted score. I'll tell you about that a little bit more in just a minute, but ultimately there were 50 keywords we used for yes. In other words, these indicate a very likely mobile business of interest to Stormwater, and 16 keywords of no, where they're not so likely to be of interest to Stormwater. So here's just a snapshot of the tables from the report there. What we have is we have the keywords to include on the left, the keywords to exclude on the right, and you can see the, sorry, that was a little premature. You can see the weighting factor, the second column, it's all positive numbers ranging from 0.25 to 1 on the left for keywords to include, and keywords to exclude, the weighting factor is all -1. So it would make the keyword score a negative number and easily sortable in that way. So just looking at some of the keywords we used here, this was a process of just brainstorming with the study team, getting input from the technical advisory committee for the study, and coming up with one or two keyword combinations. And you can see the list on the left of keywords to include goes on. That's only like half of the list of, what was it, 60 some words. And then the keywords to exclude on the right, relatively shorter list, but it includes things like wireless and cellular, which also are used in the context of mobile, but not so much of interest to Stormwater. Okay, so that was task. I'm sorry, one more slide on this mobile business listing procedure, which was that ultimately the process identified almost 30,000 potential mobile businesses of interest to Stormwater in King County among those 25 cities that participate in Department of Revenue's business license service. In total, there are just over 83,000 business license records, and whittling those down through our keyword search process, focusing on the non-resident businesses, and then identifying those that have a relative risk level of higher, medium, or lower based on their industrial classification code, we came up with just over 29,000 likely non-resident mobile businesses of interest to Stormwater. So that's all we have time for this task, but you can see there's a link in the slide here. So if you're interested to dive deeper and learn more, you can get your hands on this presentation and click the link. All right, moving on to task 4, which was an analysis of IDDE data, specifically IDDE data that is related to mobile businesses. So first of all, what are we talking about with IDDE? It's illicit discharge detection and elimination. So what do you think that discharge might be on the left, the image with the white stuff? Let's call it out.
Weed killer.
Weed killer, maybe. Sure. Other ideas? Paint. Maybe baby powder. What?
Concrete slurry.
Concrete slurry could be, but maybe it's baby powder. We don't know. It could be toxic. It could not be. What about the image in the middle? Obviously, grass clippings. Is that an illicit discharge? I see some people nodding. I'm likely to say probably not. It's just grass, but it can still cause a problem. It could block the storm drain and cause flooding. But then again, if the grass clippings are laden with pesticides, maybe it is an illicit discharge. What about the image on the right? What do you think that is? concrete. What else? Coffee with cream? Yeah, probably not. That'll be a lot of coffee. But these are the types of things we're talking about with illicit discharges. Yeah, and this the analysis we did was looking specifically at the data that permittees, municipal stormwater permittees submitted for calendar year 2020. That's during the current permit period, and it's the first calendar year that permittees had to submit their IDDE data using the data schema, the data reporting schema that's in Appendix 12 of the permit. And that includes an XML file, which I've heard people just love, being sarcastic. But nonetheless, it provided us a way to see how this new reporting schema works. And in total, there were just over 1,800 records of IDD incidents that were reported and we analyzed. And the most common illicit discharges from those records were automobile and equipment related, as well as construction activity, sewage and pet waste, but also the second most common reported type of illicit discharge was unconfirmed or unidentified. In other words, an inspector, you get a call, an inspector goes out, there's nothing there, it might have washed down, it's a rainy day, they just can't confirm it. So that happened to be a very common outcome from IDDE investigations. 41% of those incidences discharged to the MS4. So in other words, more than half did not discharge to the MS4. Now, of that data set, just over 1,800 records, a mere 61 of those identified mobile businesses as the potential source of pollution. This is one of the answer options in the reporting schema for the permit. So relatively few number of records, but those records indicated that fuel and vehicle related pollutants were most commonly reported. And also when it came to source tracing, simply observation was the most common reported method. All right, so again, don't have time to go over all of the results from the IDDE data analysis. So just showing a couple of graphs here for comparison. What we have is the whole data set represented on the left and the mobile business data set, 61 records represented on the right. And this question is, did the discharge go to the MS4? Seems like a simple yes or no type of question, but in fact, you can see, sorry for the small print on the bottom, but there are 4 different yes answers. There are 3 different no answers and a couple of other unknown answers. So it's not just as simple as a simple yes or no, but I just wanted to show these graphs because we do see some correlation between the pattern of whether or not an IDDE incident discharged to the MS4 and whether or not it was reported in. So first, starting with the no's, you can see a somewhat similar pattern where there were a significant number of discharges that did not go to the MS4 and were simply cleaned up. And that was the case for all records as well as mobile business records. And then looking at the most common yes answer where discharges did go to the MS4, they were most commonly reported to ecology. But as you can see, there are other yes answers that could be chosen. It was reported to Department of Health. It was not identified and not reported. Or yes, it discharged to the MS4, but it turned out it was an allowable or conditionally allowable discharge. So the answer options get nuanced here. And as you can see, we've got a link to the final report here where you can go for some more information. So that takes us through task 4, moving on to task 5, which is the best practices guidance document. And that consists of essentially collecting existing materials focused on mobile businesses as a resource document. So we collected what we consider some of the best outreach materials, 26 existing outreach brochures, fact sheets, posters, that sort of thing, on a variety of topics, which you can see there listed from general multi-purpose to various types of cleaning, mobile business cleaning, to construction, landscaping, pool, and spa cleaning. In addition, we're going to be creating 3 new outreach items for this SAM study. The best practices document also gathers 20 of what we think are the most relevant and useful BMPs from a few different stormwater manuals, King County's, City of Tacoma's, and Department of Ecology's. All right, so just to give you a sense of what some of those outreach materials are that are collected in this best practices guidance document, this is perhaps one of the most obvious activities for a mobile business we want to avoid, or we want to try to educate them not to do. A mobile business van discharging its wastewater into a ditch somewhere. So this can result in a number number of different, depending on what type of business it is and what type of materials they use. The list can be pretty long, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, but some of the materials we collected are related to mobile food service, like food trucks, mobile pet services, pet grooming, automobile and car detailing and cleaning, carpet cleaning. Landscaping professionals have a lot of different chemicals that they use, as well as a variety of different types of mobile cleaning practices. And these are just kind of snips from the outreach materials that are collected in this best practices guidance document. We also chose things that reinforce some of the common slogans that are used, like dump smart and only rain down the drain. As I mentioned, there are also 3 outreach items that we're going to be preparing for the SAM study. We've already prepared one of those. Those 3 topics, one topic was decided upon by the study team. The other 2 topics will be decided upon by the technical advisory committee for the study and also the pilot program participants. But the brochure that we've created so far, here's just the first cover page for a trifold double-sided brochure focusing on mobile auto repair. We saw a lot of things regarding mobile automobile cleaning, but and other things, but not necessarily auto repair. And that is a very common mobile business. So, and this was really collecting existing information and putting it in the context for a business that's their focus, is going to a site and doing some level of automobile repair. And the approach we focused on, as you can see in the lower left, is photographic with the green check mark. Yes, this is a good practice or a good way to do the practice, and a red do not enter symbol with not recommended way to do the practice. All right. Okay, moving on to the last task, which is task 6, the pilot program. That is currently underway. The purpose of the pilot program is to really bring together everything that the SAM study has created and developed and test those products and procedures. So that includes the outreach materials, see how well those work. Also, the mobile business listing procedure. We're in the process of developing a spreadsheet tool that can be hopefully used by permittees themselves when they update their inventories to identify mobile businesses. And the plan for the pilot program includes the study team providing lists of mobile businesses to the participating cities. Again, we got the business license data from Department of Revenue. We ran it through a keyword search, and we identified likely businesses and ranked them by their industrial classification code. So we provide those lists to the cities. Also the best practices guidance document, which we just talked about. And then as part of the pilot program, the participants will be working on case studies so that we can get some lessons learned and some images. They're going to include photographs, what worked well when I inspected this mobile business, what did not work well, why do they never call me back, how come I can never reach my peer at the next jurisdiction, or we worked great together and we inspected the mobile business and felt like we made a difference. These sort of things can really help carry the outcomes forward. And also there'll be a participant survey at the end of the mobile business pilot program. So who is participating in the pilot program? What we have here is a map of the incorporated cities in King County. King County is the focus area for the pilot program. And this really shows the western portion of King County. In total, there were 25 cities shown in purple that participate in Department of Revenue's business license service program. So those are the ones we had the business license data for. And the cities in kind of the gold brown color, those cities do not participate in the business license program. In other words, they manage their own business license data, most commonly through File Local. And the green check marks indicate who's participating. In the list, you can see on the left there, we have 18 cities in total. Most of the cities are BLS partners, but we also extended the offer to participate in the program to a few non-BLS cities to try to fill the geographic gaps. So those currently include City of Bellevue and City of Renton. And if you represent a city and you don't see your city listed up here, but you're interested in participating in the pilot program, it's not too late. But we've already got it underway. It's going through August, so there's still time. So feel free to talk to me or message me or Alison afterward. If you represent a city that does not participate in Department of Revenue's BLS program and you have another service manage your business license data, what that means is you'll need to send us your business license records. We'll run it through our keyword search and then send you back a list of likely mobile businesses. So that's the difference. For the purple cities, we already had their data. For the gold cities, we need those cities to send us their data. But that pretty much takes us through the presentation. Thank you for your attention. We have several minutes left for questions if there are any.